Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's SRP event, Social Security Securing Your Retirement. Really looking forward to this myself. Definitely a topic you can't know too much about, and I'm really excited for today's presentation, as I'm sure you all are as well. My name is Rich Lombard. I'm the manager of our participant education team for SRP. We appreciate you joining us for the third event of our 2025 education series. Just a few quick notes before we get started today. All lines are muted out, but we do welcome your questions. If you have one, please get out your phone and scan the QR code that you'll see on the presentation slides. Each slide has one, so you'll be able to do it along the way. That will take you to a landing page where you may submit a question or schedule a consultation with one of our team members. I'll monitor the questions and we'll get to as many as possible at the end of the presentation. This presentation is being recorded, and we'll share the recording with all who have registered for the webinar later this week. With that said, I'm pleased to introduce our presenter today, Joe Rosenthal, Vice President, is a market leader with the Retirement Insurance Group within BlackRock's Retirement Group. His team is responsible for driving BlackRock's strategy with life insurance and protected income providers. Joe's key relationships are with annuity wholesalers and home office distribution leadership. Joe's service with the firm dates back to 2009, including his time with Barclays Global Investors. Joe's tenure in the financial services industry is over 20 years, working at some of the industry's leaders, including Guardian Insurance, UBS, and Lincoln Financial. Now I'll turn it over to you, Joe.
Rich, thank you very much, and I appreciate the introduction. And it's just listening to the 20 years is always a little bit daunting. To you and the SRP team, thank you very much. We really do appreciate the opportunity to be able to spend time with everyone today. So let me just start out with this, is that with everybody on the line, when most of you think about retirement, one of your first thoughts most likely is Social Security. This has been front and center now for the past few months. And if this is what you're thinking about, good. This is how we're going to spend our time today. And as Rich said, again, my name is Joe Rosenthal. I'm BlackRock's Retirement Insurance Market Leader. I'm actually going to take you through the rules of Social Security and kind of some of the common mistakes made by retirees and kind of talk about how you can in turn maximize some of your benefits. So with that said, why don't we get things moving? Mag, if you go to the next slide. Wonderful. So let's start out, just kind of talk a little bit about longevity. The fact is that people are living longer than ever before. If you take a look at the last line there, if you have a couple who is 65 years old, there's a 50% chance one of them is going to make it to age 92, and a 25% chance one of them is going to make it to age 96. Translation is people are living longer in retirement than ever before. Now, by the way, this is not a BlackRock stat. This actually comes from the Society of Actuaries. So as a whole, it's something that we truly do, in fact, need to start paying attention to. You go to the next slide. So as I said, people are living longer than ever before. Well, the reality is that nearly 63% of the population who are taking benefits are actually taking them early. Now, when you take your dollars early, that means that the benefit that you receive will in fact be reduced. Please don't think that this is something that you can change on a regular basis. Is once you make your decision, that is a decision that you, in fact, need to live with for the rest of your life. And we're actually going to talk about what the impact is of that and ways to actually potentially plan around that. If you go to the next slide, if you could. So what I want to do now is I want to spend a little bit of time and start talking about some of the rules and how we in turn go about it. So where do we start? Well, we're going to start out with the statements. You will actually start to receive your statements before, usually about 3 months before your 60th birthday. On that statement, there's a lot of really good information. It's going to see throughout history what your earnings has been. You're going to see what your benefit is at your full retirement age if you take your dollars early, or if you in fact wait to take your benefits. And we're going to go through each one of those. But frequently, as we hear the comment, which is that, Joe, I'm sorry, I did not get my statement. You can always go on ssa.gov ss.gov to receive to get an online ad hoc statement. Keep in mind, though, is that once you register to receive your statements online, is you will no longer receive your benefits on paper. Now, before we move on, let me just hit on a couple pieces that are in there. Is that currently now is that Social Security is taking taking a contribution that is matched by your employer, and it's up to $176,100 each year. That in turn goes up. But what else we're looking at there is those earnings. So before I get into your earnings statement, there's one thing I'm going to ask all of you to do is that when you do look at your Social Security statement, and that is to see if there's any zeros that are on your statement. In other words, is Social Security did not record or recognize your earnings from that particular year. You actually have 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days in order to be able to go back to Social Security and say, here's my tax return from that particular year. Why is that so important? Well, Social Security is going to base your benefit on your best 35 years of earnings. Okay? So it's not going to be consecutive. So if you did well early on in your career and then you decided to coast or do something different, they are going to take into account those best years that you had early on. So all of that is in fact taken into consideration. Let's go to the next slide if you could. So as I was making the introduction and talking about the Social Security statement, I used the terminology. I said full retirement age. Well, full retirement age is when you are going to receive your primary insurance amount, or the acronym is PIA. Now, you can take your benefits early. You can take your benefits as early as age 62, but if you do, that benefit will in fact be reduced. Now, while Social Security has not said you must wait until you're 70 years old, they're going to give you encouragement in order to be able to do so, and waiting until you are 70 years old. So we're going to dig into that in just a moment. But before we do that, let's understand a little bit more about full retirement age and how it applies to you. So if you were born in the year 1937 or earlier, your full retirement age is 65. If you were born in the years 1943 to 1954, your full retirement age is 66. And if you were born in the year 1960 and after, your full retirement age is 67. That is when you are eligible to start taking benefits. Well, hopefully you're looking at this and say, well, Joe, what happens if I was born between 1954 and 1960? If you were born, just say 1955, you're going to add 2 months. So for each year beyond 1954, we're going to add 2 months. So 1955 is your full retirement age is not 66. Your full retirement age is 66 and 2 months. 1956, 66 and 4 months, so on and so forth, all the way up to, as I said, 1960, where your full retirement age is 67. Let's keep this in mind because we're going to be touching on these points frequently as we start going through this. Go to the next slide if you could, Maggie. Thank you. We're actually going to go from right to left here. At full retirement age, you are eligible to receive 100% of your benefits. Now, as I said, that you can take your dollars early each year. You take those dollars early, your benefit will be reduced. As I said, you can take it as early as age 62, but when you do so, you're only going to receive 70% or a 30% reduction of your full benefits. Keep in mind again, and I'm going to stress this a few more times, that decision that you make is one that you're going to live with for the rest of your life. I'm going to get into some of the nuts and bolts as that in turn goes through. Go to the next slide if you could, please. But the fact is that, some people do need to take their benefits early. So when you do need to take your benefits early, there's a few things that we need to take into consideration. Number one is, are you still working? 2 is longevity. And the last one, we're probably going to spend the majority of our time today, is talking about the spouse and what is the impact to them as well as what it is to you during your working years. Go to the next slide if you could. So let's first off start out with those who are trying to collect benefits early and still work. Again, is Social Security is designed as a retirement benefit, not as a supplemental benefit. So if you are under your full retirement age, and remember what I said before as far as those years in which you were working, in which you were born, is that please keep that in mind for your full retirement age. So if you take your dollars early, for every $2 that you earn in excess of $23,400, you will lose $1 of Social Security income. Now, those who are higher earners and you just want to take the dollars because you're not sure where Social Security is going to be, is you can actually end up negatively impacting yourself, probably doing more damage than good by taking the dollars early if you're still working. Now, the year you reach your full retirement age, you get a little bit of a bonus. Okay, here is that for every $3 that you earn in excess of $62,160, is that you will lose $1 of Social Security income. Now, the month that you reach your full retirement age, and whether that month is January or whether that month is December, is that there is no limit. You can continue to keep working, and there's no penalty for taking your dollars. Again, you just do need to reach your the month of your full retirement age. As I said, whether it be early in the year, later in the year, the first of the month, or the last day of the month. We do get a frequent question where people will say can I still work and collect my benefits even in later years, as we are finding people who are working later on into their lifetimes. All right, go to the next slide if you could, please. So I'm actually going to go back on one of the comments that I made, where I said the decision that you make is one that is permanent. Can you make a change? And the answer, in short order, is maybe. If you have made a decision and you are within a 12-month window, you can file what's called a withdrawal of application. Now, what that is basically it's a redo. As you file for that benefit, as you file for a reversal of benefits, is a few different things. One, as I said, is that you need to be within that 12 months. All the money that you received from Social Security must be paid back in full. It's not on a payment plan, must be returned back in one check and in one instance. Okay? Once you have done that, it's as though you had never made a decision, and then you can go back and you'll continue to start getting some of those increases that I made reference to earlier. I'll go to the next slide if you could, please. Okay. All right, so as I've gone through this so far, I've talked about the reduction in benefits and some of the hazards. Well, what happens if you in fact wait to take your benefits? Well, for every year that you wait to take your dollars, Social Security is going to give you a bonus, an additional 8% each year, all the way until your full retirement age. If your full retirement age is 67, then you will get an additional 24% increase in income. If your full retirement age is 66, it's considerably even more. It's an additional 8%, 32%. Please don't think that if you wait beyond age 70, that increase continues to keep happening. It does not. It is maxed out at age 70. So in other words, is that there's no benefit for you waiting beyond the age of 70 to start taking your Social Security. We call that money left on the table. So go to the next slide if you could, please. So we added this recently, and that is kind of looking at the cost of living. As you see, historically, at least going back to 1995, COLA adjustments have not been significant. On average, they've been about 2.5%. In 2025, it was a 2.5% increase that was given. But if you go back just a few years ago, is that we saw increases of 8%, 9%, 6% in certain instances. is where you saw that increase. The reason why I'm harping on this is that frequently is that we will get a comment from somebody who will say is I need to file for my benefits in order to be able to collect that increase in COLA, or I need to file for my benefit earlier in the year versus the end of the year. Is you do not need to wait to the end of the year to file for your benefits. Is you do not need to collect your benefit early in order to be able to capture that COLA increase. That increase will happen automatically within your benefits. So we're not encouraging people to change their collection strategy based upon the COLA on the cost of living adjustment increase. Go to the next slide if you don't mind. I like this slide the most out of everything that we have here. Now, this is looking at somebody who is an individual. Frequently, is we get the comment where somebody will say, "It doesn't matter when I start collecting my benefit." Well, actually, mathematically, it does. So, based upon an individual, is that if you, from a longevity perspective, you think that you're going to pass before the age of 78 and a half, is that that makes sense to collect your dollars early. But mathematically, is that if you have longevity in the family and you think you're going to live beyond the age of 82 and a half, it actually makes sense to wait until you are 70 years old. Now, this is just for an individual. Is many people may be on the line where you are a couple, is that what we have found is that when we put a couple in, is that we see the average kind of shifts a little bit to the left. So in other words, that both of you need to die earlier and don't have to live as long in order for it to be beneficial to wait until you are 70 years old. The good news is that working with Rich and the SRP team is that BlackRock has a Social Security calculator that's for financial professionals only, is where they can run a custom crossover strategy. So you can see based upon your own specific situation, where based upon your year of birth, based upon your primary insurance amount, and based upon the life expectancy that you think that you have. And they can adjust back and forth, whether that be 70 years old or whether that be 90 years old or even age 100. So it makes for a very good conversation piece and very good information point for you in turn to have. Go to the next slide if you could, please. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to go through some of the rules that there are for retirement. So best way to go about that is to kind of create a case. And the case here we have is Jordan and Alex. Okay, first off is that you see Jordan's PIA is $2,200. Alex's PIA is zero. Remember, PIA stands for primary insurance amount, and that is the benefit amount that you will receive at your full retirement age. So why would Alex have a primary insurance amount of zero? Alex did not earn 40 credits. You earn 1 credit for each quarter that you work. In other words, that you need to be working for 10 years. The caveat is that those 40 credits or those 40 quarters do not need to be consecutive, but you must in turn be working for those 40 credits in total in order to be eligible for what's called a spousal benefit. That spousal benefit is a maximum of 50% of the PIA. So for the rest of this conversation today, I'm going to say Jordan's PIA is the amount of $2,200. So the maximum that Alex is eligible for is $1,100. In total, that's $3,300 that this family is getting from Social Security income. Now, keep in mind is that if you notice is that Alex is unable to start collecting that spousal benefit until Jordan files for his. I'm stressing that because it's going to come up frequently as we go through the next few slides here. Go to the next slide if you could, though. Now, look what happens when Jordan collects his benefit early. We know that there's going to be a reduction in benefits. Okay, it's reduced by 30%. And take a look here. We go from $2,200 to $1,540. But in this case, though, is that Alex made the decision not to collect her benefit early, but to wait till her full retirement age. And look what happens. That benefit is not changed. In other words, is that the spousal benefit is based upon the PIA, not the check amount. Very important. Okay. Next slide, if you could. So does that mean is that it does not matter when Alex takes her benefit? Of course it does. And we're going to dig in a little bit here. So first off, as you see, take a look in the middle, we see FRA at 100%. I made the comment earlier is that it does not make sense in order to wait beyond the age of 70. Because as you see, it is a maximum of 100%, or that, excuse me, the maximum of that $1,100 or the 50% of the PIA. Once you're there, take it as soon as you can. But if you're taking the benefits early, is that benefit reduction will not be 30%. That benefit reduction will in fact be 35%. So a lot of things in order to take into consideration. Let's go to the next slide if you could. I'll just give you a little bit of an example here and kind of reinforce the point. Alex waits until he is 70 years old. As we saw is that we go from $2,200 to $2,728. And while Alex is forced to wait, is her benefit amount will not increase because, as I said, is you can never go above that 50%. Next slide, if you could. So this is interesting. So back in 2016 is that there were a few different strategies. One of them was called filing and suspending. That strategy has since been sunset and is no longer available. Anybody who had enacted that strategy is still covered. But what this is that this is called, you still have the ability to be able to suspend benefits. And I found this to become a little more pertinent more recently, is where we had people who basically had gone into retirement or started collecting their benefits early due to the pandemic, and they've had gone back to work. So if you start collecting your benefit early, say at age 62, so in this case, Jordan took the 30% reduction. When they hit full retirement age, you can actually suspend that benefit and start collecting 8% increases until age 70. Then at age 70, turn the benefit back on, and you get that 24% increase. So we go from $1,500 or $1,540 to now $1,910. While it is not the same amount as collecting on the full amount, but it is a way in order to be able to kind of pick up some additional income. There's a word of caution though, is that when Jordan suspends his benefits, is Alex's benefit is going to be turned off and will not be turned on until Jordan turns his benefit back on. And as you see, is while Jordan got the increase, Alex did not. A lot of information there, but something I do like to pause and stress, because we are right about that time now where people are at the point where they're going to be if they're going to want to fix that, is that now's the time in order to be able to do that. Go to the next slide if you could, please. Okay, so we've done a good job now as far as picking on Alex and Alex not having a benefit. What happens if Alex actually has a benefit? Is Alex still entitled to a spousal benefit? And the answer is yes. So in this case, again, we're going to keep Jordan at $2,200. Alex's benefit is now $600. Let's start out in the middle. Alex's full retirement age is 67. Alex will get not only her $600, but she's entitled to an additional $500 of spousal benefits. Remember that maximum? That's why I stress the word max. Again, that max of $1,100. Now, if Alex wants to take her benefit early at age 62, we know that there will be a 30% reduction. That reduction also applies to the spousal benefits, so that $500 will be reduced by 35%, bringing it down to $325. In total, $745. Take a look on the far right. By waiting until 70 years old, is Alex will get a 24% increase on her own benefits, but as you see, is that she's maxed out at the 356. While it's not going to get the whole amount, it's still additional $356 a month that that Alex did not have before. Again, always you're hitting that threshold, that maximum of the 50% number. This is a frequently overlooked benefit that people have missed in the past. All right, next slide, if you could. So I made the point. I said if there's a significant difference in benefits, there's an opportunity for increase. What happens when you have two higher benefits? In this case, Jordan having a benefit of $2,200 or Alex having a benefit of $2,500, which is greater. Is there a strategy? And there is no strategy in order to be able to maximize that benefit. Both of them can take it at full retirement age or age 70, whichever one they in fact choose. Go to the next slide if you could, please. This is important, and I'm talking now about survivor benefits. I've made the comment earlier what one does for the other, because it's important to understand what happens to the spouse. Well, first off is that it's the majority, it's not a huge majority, but the majority of survivor benefits that are paid to the wife. Is take a look here on the right-hand side. So using the example here of Jordan with the PIA of $2,200 and Alex with the PIA of $600. If Jordan were to collect his benefit early, is in this case 64 and 6 months, it goes down to the calculation of $1,833. When Jordan passes, Alex is going to have to make a decision. Does she keep her $600 benefit, or is she going to take the $1,833? Of course, she's going to take the $1,833. But keep in mind, is that $600 is going to go to the wayside, is that she will only be receiving $1,833 in total income coming in from Social Security. The same thing goes is that Jordan were to wait until he's 70 years old, he goes from the $2,200 to the $2,728. While Alex's decision is a lot easier, of course, he's going to keep the $2,728. But again, is the $600, Alex's $600 individual benefit will in fact go to the wayside. She's only eligible for the $2,700. Point of note is that I was picking on Jordan here. If Alex passes first, is Jordan's going to have to make the same decision. Does he keep his $2,200 or does he take the $600? Of course, he's going to take the $2,200 or the $1,800 or the $2,700. So it's very important to take into account is not what you need today at age 62, or in this case, 64 and 6 months, is you take into account what you might in fact need for the future. And that is part of the overall financial planning process. Go to the next slide if you could. All right. Best thing that we have found is to actually basically create a case study as far as looking at collection strategies. Now, I'm going to harp on longevity again, because as I said, people are living longer than ever before, and longevity mathematically plays a crucial role in this conversation. So we've got Jordan and Alex, both of them born in the year 1960. Jordan's PIA is $2,200. I'm going to keep Alex's PIA at $600. Jordan passes at the age of 75. Okay, Alex is going to make it all the way to age 84. Now, in this case, I'm going to kind of skip through some of the math here to help us out. But both of them taking the dollars early. We know that Jordan taking his benefit is reduced by 30%. Alex taking her own benefit is going to go from the 600 reduced 30%, and again that 35% for the spousal benefit. In total, they will be receiving almost $560,000, $579,900 to be exact. Go to the next slide. Now, as you would suspect, is by waiting until their full retirement age, is the benefit amount that they will receive is going to go up, and it does. We go from $580,000 to $594,000. Excellent. Okay, because again, we did not take the reduction in the benefits. Go to the next slide. Look what happens though when you wait until you're 70 years old. You would think that by waiting to 70 is that the benefit would continue to keep going up. Wrong. It goes down. And if we were in person, I would say why? And why is because Jordan died too soon. If there is a disparity in longevity between spouses, you may want to consider looking at alternative strategies. Go to the next slide if you could. For example, in this case, is what we would suggest, or what we not suggest, but what we've looked at, is that by Jordan waiting till he is 70 years old, he would take his increase to $2,728. Alex would take her own benefit early, and yes, take that 30% reduction. And then at age 70, because she had to wait until Jordan start collecting a spousal benefit, is that we go to almost $600,000, $599,760. So it is considerably more than waiting to age 70, not that much more by waiting until your full retirement age. But what happens though if you actually start changing longevity? Go to the next slide if you could. Now is a big difference. Okay? What we have is Jordan passing at age 85 and Alex making it all the way to age 92. Both of them taking it at 62 it's a little bit more than 810,000. For retirement age, as we see, it's 937,000. Look at what happens now. It's gone from last place to second place. Both of them waiting until the age 70. We have $964,128, and employing a little bit of some strategy to it, you can actually increase it that much more. So when I say longevity matters, or at least addressing the longevity question, it certainly does matter, and it is in fact important. Go to the next slide if you could. So looking at it, does it mean that there's only strategies that are good for when you have people who are couples? And the answer is no. Right? There are actually strategies for widows or widowers, and I don't know who is on the line here. But in this case is that we have Chris. Okay? Chris has her own PIA. Remember, PIA is the benefit that you will receive at your full retirement age. So Chris has her own PIA of $2,200, but is also entitled to a survivor benefits. Okay? And is going to pass at age 92. Take a look at the bar chart that we have here. What's to take note of is they're actually collecting benefits before age 62. With a survivor benefit, you're able to collect your dollars beginning at age 60. So, and that reduction changes a little bit. It's actually probably the most favorable. A reduction is 28.5%. If you need those dollars, especially when you're talking about a survivor situation, I think it is important that you are able to collect those dollars early. So in this case, is that the strategy would be is that Chris would collect the survivor benefit early, take that 28.5% reduction, and that at age 7, is say, I no longer want my survivor benefit. I now want to take my own benefits. And then look at that. We go from $1,700 or almost $1,788 to $2,728. That is more than a $200,000 difference just by simply waiting until age 70. Once again, if you are in the position where you are a widow or a widower, please speak with Rich and team. They can run a custom analysis specifically for you. That you will need your year of birth, and best to have your Social Security statement so they can see what your primary insurance amount is. Go to the next slide if you could. All right, and then last piece here is just looking at somebody who may, in fact, where they don't have such a high benefit. Is there a strategy? And of course there is. We're looking in this case, Chris now has a benefit, our own PIA of $1,000. and a survivor benefit of $2,500, it actually makes sense for Chris to start collecting those benefits a little bit early at age 62. And then at full retirement age, terminate her own benefit and start collecting the survivor benefit. And here we're picking up more than $130,000 more, total income for Chris. So as a whole, is my comments that I made earlier on in the conversation, or as we started out, is this is about how, in fact, do you maximize your Social Security benefits? How do you maximize your Social Security income? Go to the next slide, if you could, please. All right, so with people who are getting married later on in life, where you have disparity or differences in age, can a younger spouse collect benefits, or can children in turn collect Social Security benefits? And the answer is yes. They're entitled, each child is entitled to a maximum of 50% of your PIA. If somebody were to have passed early, that child is entitled to 75% of the PIA. The limitation is that if the child needs to be under the age of 18, if they're in high school, 19. Now, at any age, if they are disabled before the age of 22. If you are in the position where you have a disabled child, this is not straightforward. I would encourage you to speak with Rich and team in order to be able to secure a specialist for the Social Security disability income. And then the last piece here is just as far as if you have a younger spouse, that younger spouse is eligible to take benefits as well, and that's a maximum of 50% of your PIA. Okay, and again, they don't need to be age 62 or 66 or so on and so forth, but they do need to be caring for a child who is under the age of 16, or that child is disabled before the age of 22. Go to the next slide, if you could, please. All right, this is with a horrible statistic of more than 50% of Americans marriages ending in divorce. This is important. If you are divorced, are you eligible for benefits from a former spouse? And the short answer is yes, you are, with a couple limitations. First off is that you needed to be married to your ex-spouse for 10 years. You are currently unmarried, i.e., again, divorced. Okay. Both of you are at least age 62, and you need to have been divorced for at least 2 years. A couple things here before I get into survivor benefits. Must your former spouse know that you are taking Social Security benefits? No, they do not. Secondly, if you are taking benefits from your former spouse, will it impact a new husband or wife that they may have taken? And the answer is no, it will not. And that goes for if they are married, whether they are married for a 10-year stint and then divorced and then married for another 10-year stint and then divorced, so on and so forth. As long as they were married for at least 10 years, you can, in fact, have multiple spouses who are taking benefits. Now, this part is very important. Now, while you may be taking spousal benefits, you are also entitled to survivor benefits. And I think this is very important because that if you are in a position where you need the income, this is a great supplement. I will tell you is that Social Security is not looking through the roster to see if somebody has passed and somebody has passed and said, oh, you know what, Joe's wife did not receive benefits. We're going to make that proactive phone call. You need to proactively go to Social Security, and you need to provide them with the documentation in order to be able to show proof that you were previously married, on the amount of time that you were married, and that you were entitled to survivor benefits. And I've seen this firsthand. The ultimate impact, it can in fact be life-altering for some families, so for some individuals. All right, next slide, if you could. this is where it starts to kind of get a little muddy just with the changes in the big beautiful bill. Is I'm not going to go through the details of the changes. What I will say though is that these tax tables are still in play. If you want more information, is please reach out to Rich and the SRP team, and they will they'll have some additional content, and they can reach out to BlackRock, and we get you something specific with regards to you, and that is Social Security, are Social Security benefits subject to tax? And the answer is yes, and it's based upon provisional income. Provisional income is 50% of your Social Security benefits plus your modified adjusted gross income. So if you are single or filing as an individual, is from $0 to $25,000, is that there's no Social Security that is in fact taxable. $25,000 to $34,000 is up to 50% of your Social Security is taxable, and anything over $34,000 as an individual, it's 7 to 85%. Now, this is a common question. Is it an 85% tax? And it is not. It is based upon your income. Is 7 to 85% of your Social Security benefit is taxable based upon whatever your income is. That's more the questions that we get. Married filing jointly up to 32,000, and then 32 to 44, and then 44 beyond. Once again, these are all subject to the recent changes in the big beautiful bill. And as I said, I would encourage you to speak with your financial advisor and your tax advisor to see what the ultimate impact is to you and your specific financial situation. All right. Let's start to close it out here. If you go to the next slide. Okay. So as we're going through this, I would encourage all of you to meet with your financial advisor. I would encourage all of you, if you have not received your Social Security statement, to go on ssa.gov and download. I will give you a word of caution, and that is the password that you use is, please keep that someplace safe. Because as you can imagine, changing your password is not easy. It's snail mail, and I'm stressing this because I'm speaking from personal experience. Is changing the password is difficult. And one last piece is, once you sign up for online statements, you will no longer receive permanent statements, paper statements. Go to the next slide here, and I'm just going to give you a little more information. Once again, we'd encourage you, just ssa.gov, to apply for benefits, and typically we say 3 months in advance to start to apply for your benefits. If you like the telephone, you want or if you want an in-person meeting, it's 1-800-772-1213, and you can either ask questions or you can schedule an appointment, whether that be online or a virtual online appointment, or to go into the office for a specific an individual scheduled meeting. Okay. That was a lot of information in a relatively short period of time. My expectation is nobody here is going to be a Social Security expert at this point in time. But I do hope that all of you, some of you, many of you, gleaned a little bit of some information, got some clarity into why people are looking at taking benefits early, and why you should in fact potentially wait until your full retirement age, or age 70 if you can in fact do so. And most of all is schedule time with your financial advisor to see what is most appropriate for your particular situation. So with that said, Rich, I've been talking a lot. Let's see if there's any questions, comments, concerns that came through on the chat.
Absolutely. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. A lot of great information there. So we got some great questions here. I'm going to probably stay away more from the individual type of situations, because I think that as Joe mentioned, are things for us to talk about in individual consultations. But I'll focus more on the ones that will broadly, help the group here. So the first one is, I will be at full retirement age at 66 and 10 months in May of 2026. I was told I can start apply to start receiving full benefits in January of 2026 without penalty. Is this correct?
You can start receiving benefits in July. It's at
In-
what you can apply 3 months in advance. But if you start applying for benefits early, is that you will there'll be a reduction in benefit, and that benefit reduction in the last 2 years before you go, it's actually 5/12 of the benefit for each month that you are collecting early. If you need the income and you find that the reduction is negligible, you have to make your own decision. But if you can wait, wait.
One that I'll answer, will this deck be sent out after the webinar? Yes, it will be, along with the recording. Let's see. If you start before full retirement age and have the reduction of benefits because of higher income, would that reduction continue forever, or will it go away after you reach full retirement age?
It does come back but Social Security will take their due if you've collected benefits early, and been penalized.
I'll also answer this one. Hello, how can we utilize this with 401k, or is this only for Social Security? Well, I think when it comes to financing your retirement, it's going to be a combination of Social Security and your 401k or any other savings you have. Let's see here. So slide 15, do you have a situation showing where both myself and my wife have earned the required credits, but my salary is much higher? I'm 2 years older. How can that impact her Social Security check?
That is a perfect question for you, Rich, as far as leveraging the calculator. I don't know what your benefit amount is, what your longevity is, but you can actually, as I said, is create kind of I would say a custom report, but is look at the calculator to help in identifying what could or could not happen, what it might look like on a short and a long-term basis.
Great. This question I'm going to kind of summarize here. So when it comes to widower benefits, so if a married female has 3 kids, all adults now, marriage ends before she has married 10 years, and she remains in status married for 20 years, ending in divorce. Basically, I guess some of the question is, if there are multiple marriages, how does that impact the subsequent, benefits for the spouses?
Is you would need to make an evaluation as far as what the survivor benefit in fact could look like. Is typically what happens is that it's after age 60 is where this comes into play, and there's a couple of nuances to this. And Rich, I can forward out some additional content for you that we can share with this person that she has more supports.
And then, great question here. What about same-sex couples?
As long as Social Security recognizes same-sex marriages, as long as they are in fact married.
What happens if the primary person dies before they start taking benefits? Can the spouse still collect?
The answer is yes. It will be based upon whatever their PIA is at time of death. So if somebody died at 35 versus somebody dying at age 60, obviously the primary insurance amount would in fact be different.
If you're not married, what is the benefit of waiting to 70 as opposed to getting full retirement age before taking benefits?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good question. And if you're not married and you're individual and you were never married in the past, this is truly a crucial part of the financial planning process. Is look at your current income status that you have and look at your longevity. If you have longevity, you want to be looking in order to be able to maximize your total income that you have. So it might in fact behoove you to wait until you are 70 years old. And I'm wording it in a way because I'm not here to provide financial advice, but I think it makes for a great conversation to be had with your financial professional.
Let's see. If your spouse collects for a few years and then the husband starts collecting, does the auto bump up to the 50%, or do you need to reach out to Social Security to activate?
So if you have the higher earner, and I don't care if it's he or she, doesn't matter. Okay, if you have the higher earner and they start collecting, and if they are collecting early, their benefit may in fact be reduced. If the other spouse waits to collect, it will be based upon whatever their amount is. I think that answers the question. I'm not sure if you recall in the other slide, in one of the earlier slides, excuse me, is that we showed is based upon the PIA amount, not the check amounts. And if both of them are earning benefits, once again, you can collect your own benefits and then wait to take the spousal benefit without the reduction.
Good question here. Great presentation on the behalf of benefits for Social Security. These models are based on Social Security being solvent over time. Any thoughts on what the future may hold?
So right now it's so if we turn back, if you go back to the 1970s, you had that was the first time that they looked at Social Security, saying, is Social Security going to be solvent for in perpetuity? And they said it's not going to be like that for in perpetuity. There was change that needed to be made. The last time there was changes that was made to Social Security, that was I think it's called the Greenspan bill, that had happened back in 1984, and that's where they changed the amount that was being that was subject to Social Security tax, that was subject to Social Security. They pushed out the full retirement age, and so they did that in order to be able to help it out. So goes to show that this is not the first time that we have Americans have experienced I don't say not the threat of Social Security, but where it stands right now, it's 2033 to 2035. That does not mean that Social Security goes defunct. What that means is that there would be a reduction in benefits across the board. There's some new calculations that have come into play based upon the big beautiful bill that are moving those numbers up and in fact down.
Thank you. Final question here. What impact does ID.me have on receiving your Social Security statement?
I'm sorry, say that one more time, please.
So what impact does ID.me have on retrieving your Social Security statement?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with ID.me. So, maybe we can use that as a takeaway, and we can, as a follow-up question, that we can come back with more information.
Yeah, I think ID.me is how you log into, there are two ways you log into SSA.gov. And,
okay.
I think that is one of the login ways. So I don't think it impacts your statement necessarily. You're just logging in and getting it electronically, essentially.
Correct.
Actually, we got one more question here. Sure. Follow up to the married woman being married 3 times. First husband remarried and has been married 40 years. Second husband still divorced. Third husband is the actual widower. I guess how does that impact, how the benefits would be dispersed?
So if the last husband, the husband remaining is I think it's a widower. So what benefit would he in fact be entitled? And that would be his own benefit, because he is not eligible to take benefits from his deceased spouse's spouse with regards to if he's looking at his former spouse's benefits. He would need to look at their benefits and see which in fact could be which in fact could be higher. Okay, because he is over, because as long as he needs to be over age 60, and as I said, that introduces a whole different set of rules.
Great, thank you. Well, I guess we'll start wrapping this up here again, just to reiterate Joe's point, one more time and drive it home. Use that QR code to set up, appointments with us, my team. We are all fiduciary financial advisors, and we'd be happy to walk through kind of individual situations with you for your retirement planning as a whole, and also including Social Security. Other than that, the next webinar we're going to have, which I'd love for you all to join us on, our fourth and final event of 2025, is going to be Medicare and Retirement Navigating Healthcare. And that's going to be on October 14th. Again, hope to see you all there. Another great topic that goes really hand in hand very well, I think, with Social Security. So, that being said, thanks again, Joe, and thank you for all of you out there for joining this. I'm sure you got a lot out of it, as I did, and we hope you join us in the future as well. So thank you.